Hello! We have saved you a seat, which I almost forgot to say and or do. This is Train Station at 8, a video game music podcast. I am your host, Bryan, and joining me today are two people, one of which is my brother and co-host, Steven. Hello, Steven.
Use square to shoot your weapon, but it's pressure sensitive. I believe so, Snake.
Also joining us today is a guest we have on our codex here, Jared. Hello, Jared.
Hi.
Hello. Snake!
Yeah, I was hoping you'd save that joke for later.
All right. We got it out of the way. We're
Exactly.
We're all done.
Hi.
Exactly.
So, who are you, Jared? Why are you on our show?
I am a video game music aficionado. I run my own show. It is a radio show and a podcast called Pixel Pizza. I have guests on from all over the game industry. I play lots of music, lots of chiptunes, lots of music based around video games or covers or actual video game tracks. And I'm interested in pursuing that stuff as a job. I'm almost done with school, so here I am. Yay.
That's really awesome. Yes, we've been on your show as well, and it was a very nice time. And we actually did record an episode with you already, but because Skype hates us, your file was lost to the Ethernet. And so here we are recording again. Also, Steven, you seriously need to work on how you intro guests. Who are you and what are you doing on our show?
I suppose I felt a little too comfortable since we've technically had him on before, but no one else would know that.
Fair enough.
But I don't think Skype hates us. I think it's just testing our friendship.
Oh, really? So Skype is just being passive-aggressive?
Skype is a passive-aggressive friend that you need, and it knows that you need it.
Exactly.
So it can do whatever it wants.
It kind of takes advantage of you.
Yes.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Indeed.
So
I think... continue.
Steven?
You're the host.
I'm the host, man. What are you trying to do? Assert my authority? This show is about discussing one single song at length, ad nauseum, and the song Jared has brought for us today is Yell Dead Cell from Metal Gear Solid 2 and composed by Norihiko Hibino. I'm reading the name again to make sure I got that right. I think I did. Nope, Norihiko. I was close.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
But before we discuss that particular song, we like to do a little section where we talk about what we've been listening to recently. And Steven, you've been trying to say like 5 different things. So
well, I was just trying to pronounce your pronunciation.
Okay.
I think it's pronounced
Hibino?
Norihiko Hibino or Hibino?
Hibino.
Hibino.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. But
Hibino knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think we're close enough for our standards.
Maybe bad at names, but I'm good at puns. So, all right, let's kick this off with a bang by letting you, Jared, say what have you been listening to recently?
All right. Well, recently I have been listening to the album Slaughterhouse by the Ty Segall Band, which is an alternative rock group that I recently found out about, and it's really interesting, really cool. They've got some very catchy stuff, but like all their vocals are really muffled, and it's like harder rock, and it's cool. So
by harder, are they screaming a lot, or is it more just intensity?
I think it's intensity. I wouldn't say they're
Okay.
screaming.
Steven, insert different hard rock screaming here to show the difference. Dead Cell! Gotcha, that sounds really interesting. So like by muffled, is it all like trying to figure out like, is that like their whole aesthetic to it?
Yeah,
whole,
like
theme?
it's not like, I wouldn't say it's distorted, but
And as a podcast editor, when you say muffled vocals, I suddenly think, oh man, is there going to be background noise? How am I going to raise this up to the levels of the other speakers? It starts to stress me out.
Exactly. It's like, what microphone are they using?
They need to get a Yeti for crying out loud.
That sounds pretty neat though. How did you find out about them?
I actually got a download code for the album. I won it in a contest, and someone was just giving it away, and I was like, I want to try this out.
I like free stuff.
I ended up getting it. And
that was a far more interesting story than I assumed it was going to be.
I heard him on Spotify.
And I just really liked it, so I've been re-listening to it a bunch.
That is neat. I really like when I find an album that inspires me just to keep listening over and over and over again, which, like, when I find an album I like, I really have a tendency to do that, rather than, just moving on to the next year and playing a big mixed playlist. I like to just, especially self-contained albums like that, like, 10 or 12 track albums that that real bands in quotation marks put out. I just like to listen to those over and over again if I really connect with them, because I find they're very cohesive and very listenable. They're like created as songs. That's one problem with video game music. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's Event 7, Happy Days, which is just another kind of quiet string arrangement that happens during a cutscene. It's a little hard to listen to that 8 times and not start getting a little bit bored.
Yeah, this is a very cohesive album. It's every time I've listened to it, I've listened to it the whole way through because it just sounds really good that way.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Anything else you've been listening to recently?
Let's see. I've been replaying Donkey Kong Country 2 on the Wii U Virtual Console. And so I've been listening to that classic soundtrack. It's one of my all-time favorites. So.
It's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's one of those soundtracks that people remix it a lot, and you totally get why, because David Wise is pretty much a genius.
And then I get so used to the remixes that I forget that the best way to listen to it is just that original, because it doesn't really sound like SNES music. It doesn't sound like it's hampered by anything.
The other difficult thing about that soundtrack is, like, you think, oh, I played it on the GBA. Yeah, I heard that soundtrack. And it's like, no, you didn't. You had to go back to this specific version of it, this specific sound chip to really get the sound from it. So I still don't actually, since I did originally play at least the original Donkey Kong Country on GBA, I still don't think I've heard those original SNES tracks in a very long time. So I need to
Well, you certainly did when we recorded our episode with the Mercado Bros about the first level.
Yeah, but that's not even Donkey Kong Country 2.
Oh, 2. Yeah. So. Well, we should go put it in and play it sometime. We have it in the other room.
Fair enough, yeah. We just never actually play games in there because we're all too busy on Steam.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, so any favorite tracks from that soundtrack, Jared?
Let's see. I love I think it's called Disco Train. It's from, like, the levels where you're at the carnival and you're on this skeleton roller coaster. And it's got this very, like, funky vibe to it, and, like, a lot of reverb and stuff. And then there's also, like, I don't know the name of the track, but it plays near, like, one of the last levels. It's, like, in the castle. It's the castle beat. I really like that, too.
Yep. I've never actually beaten that game. It's been so long since I played it. The one level I remember liking, music-wise, other than, like, all the cool
kind of Symphony
pirate stuff at the beginning. Well, that
goes without saying.
That's like, I like the water level in Donkey Kong Country. It's like, yeah, of course you do.
But it was the swamp level, and I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember what the song was, and I can't hum it for you, but I know there was something in the swamp that I liked.
Swamp levels are often, to me, have very kind of mired, boring music in games, but kind of murky. I mean, it's like a swamp, but it gets a little dull. But in rare games, they're really good. Mm-hmm. I love the swamp in Banjo-Kazooie with all the
bubbles. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed. Well, that is pretty rad as well. Anything else, Jared? Anything else on the old, listening docket?
I think one more thing I could give a shout out to is DJ Cutman's Volume 3, which came out recently. Mm-hmm. It's a free album of game remixes. It's a lot of, like, really upbeat dance club tracks based on a huge variety of games. Like, there's Bravely Default, there's Mario 2, there's,
Didn't he have a Pokemon one recently? Is that DJ Cutman?
I think it might have been. I don't know which one that was, but he did a commission for me, actually, and he put it on the album, which is crazy.
Oh, awesome.
So, if you look up the track... Okay, I'm gonna look up the name right now, so just bear with me right here.
Sure.
DJ Cutman is someone whom I know of, and I see around all the time, and I own a lot of his music, but I just really haven't listened to it very much.
Yeah, he's a OC Remix kind of guy, right?
Yeah, I think he I mean, I don't know how much he appears on OC Remix, but he's definitely in that scene.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the song is called Electrical, and it's from the obscure Genesis game, which is one of my favorites, called Socket. And so we did a mix of that, so go check that out. And the album's all free, by the way.
Right. That's kind of the awesome thing about video game remix albums, partially just because these guys are awesome and want to create fan content that everyone can listen to, and partially because I don't think people are allowed to make you pay for remixes of stuff. That all this stuff is free. So it's pretty rad that they're still willing to put all this effort into this stuff, even though they can't sell it for money.
People totally can sell things for money.
Can they?
If it's a remix. Yeah.
Remix albums without being licensed?
Covers and remix albums? I'm pretty sure you can...
I think cover people pay royalties, which is why Guitar Hero and stuff is... I may be wrong.
I may be wrong, too.
Yeah.
This is something we need
I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to do that, though.
It's... I guess it's a bit weird, but...
And it's also, really consistent. I can't remember ever seeing something on Bandcamp that's like a remix album that you pay for.
For some reason, I was feeling like,
This is an interesting discussion. I actually don't know the answer to.
It is an interesting discussion. We need to have Josh Welchel back on. He knows all about that.
Well, I know DJ Cutman's label that he started, Game Chops, has a lot of game remix albums, and he does sell them on Louder, which is like a flexible funding site. So yeah,
speaking of Josh Welchel,
and maybe I was wrong.
I'm pretty sure you're wrong in this case, Brian. But the good news is I remembered what that DJ Cutman song I was thinking of was called.
Which one?
It's Cerulean Dance Floor.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. It's
he released it as like a single or something.
Yeah, he did that with Rob KTA, who's this Italian guy who does some really good stuff.
DJ Cutman's pretty cool. I have a ton of his music. I have Triforce of Bass. I have Triple Triad. I've got some OC Remix stuff. Yeah, I just almost never listen to it for some reason.
He's all
It's a pretty good name, though. DJ Cutman.
Yeah, it is. For all the DJs that are out there.
I think that one stands out a little bit. I enjoy that, because it actually sounds like a DJ name. It just also
right. I agree.
So, speaking of free albums that have a lot of awesome remixes on them, I've recently been getting into Harmony of Heroes.
Oh man, just wait until you get into Harmony of Heroes, the expansion pack.
Yeah, I've heard that's very good, but that is an album. Do you actually know, Steven, who the organization is who created it?
Can I do one quick search to make sure I'm not completely wrong?
Yeah, I think I know, but maybe it's better to search it.
Pop quiz!
Alright, Shine Sparkers. Yep, it is Shine Sparkers. They are the same people who did the amazing Metroid album.
Harmony of a Hunter.
Harmony of a Hunter.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know who all the faces behind it are, but...
this guy... It's a British guy who directed it, Darren Kerwin. I was actually supposed to have him on Pixel Pizza, but he's... the time difference between us is so tough that since I record it live, it's 3 a.m. where he is when I do my recordings, so...
Yes.
I couldn't get that, but I really wanted to talk to him, so... He's
weird. I guess we're kind of lucky for pre-recording. There were a couple people from Europe who we're talking to right now, and if we couldn't, say, all right, one of us will be waking up and the other will be going to bed, but we can make it happen.
Well, obviously what we're going to need to do is record an episode sometime with Jared and this guy.
Aha!
And since we pre-record, we can actually get it done. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic album. Also, given their use of alliteration, I know that Harmony of a Hedgehog has to be on the docket for them to create.
If only. You will get a Sonic Adventure 2 remix on the expansion.
Oh, nice.
Live and learn.
Oh, very nice. Yes, that's awesome. But I'm about, I think, maybe 50, 60 songs in. And yes, there are 100 songs on this album, and it's not
101 to be precise.
Dalmatians even. Okay, that was stupid. But anyway, it's and they're not just little 1-minute jingles or something. These are all full remixes, very well produced. I mean, there's going to be some range on the quality.
Well, some of them are exceptionally well produced.
But some of them, especially Sam Diller did a couple. He does it's one of those things that I believe he works on all VSTs, and that absolutely blows my mind because his stuff sounds better than most live orchestras.
Yes.
This stuff sounds so epic and so good and so well produced. It's really incredible. But yeah, it's a fantastic trip down memory lane just for all sorts of Nintendo music, because how the album is basically laid out is they'll have a game and then do however many songs I want to do from that series, and then move on. So you're like, oh, and now I'm moving on to the Kid Icarus section, and I'm moving on to the Zelda section, and now I'm moving on to the Mario section. And because there are 100 tracks, they could do a lot of songs for a lot of different franchises, and it's just really amazing the sheer variety that's on here.
And you know what I love about Nintendo?
Nope.
Well, let me tell you.
Okay.
Music-wise, it's that they're still making amazing, wonderful, memorable music to this very day.
Right.
Which will be remixed in the future. So many, franchises like Castlevania or, I don't know, you go back to like the old Contra games and they're not really making stuff anymore, or at least they're not making good music or catchy remixable music anymore.
They've gone much more towards the minimalistic style in terms of something like Castlevania, much more towards the modern orchestral style. While Nintendo has modernized. I mean, a perfect example is like Mario Kart 8. They've modernized while keeping the original vibe and the original type of composition. So, like, you could take a melody from Super Mario 3D World and a melody from the original Mario and kind of even interchange them. The athletic themes and so on have a lot to do with each other, but there's no way you could mistake the fidelity and the performances from something like 3D World to the original. So, Nintendo's done a really good job of that. I feel a lot of things are either one or the other. So, Nintendo is like the perfect breeding ground for great remixes. I can see, like, the Mario Kart 8 theme is an example of something that's already a classic I can see being remixed again. Mm-hmm. Even though it itself, one of the melodies is a remix of the original Mario Kart theme.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I've been so impressed with this album. I think my favorite section so far has been the Kirby stuff. It's just wonderful. You've got to give it a listen. They
do the ska thing, right? They go into Kirby ska.
I believe that, yes. I think they do a Meta Knight song for that.
Okay.
Which is quite good. They also do just an incredible, I don't even know maybe bluegrass is the way to describe it. I put it on my Twitter recently. It's incredible. It's like an accordion and a bunch of different random instruments, or I shouldn't say random, but eclectic instruments thrown together in an incredibly upbeat song. And the other one I loved, you showed me to this, Steven, actually, before I started listening to the album, but let me see if I can find the name of it. It's that one that takes the, I believe the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da Kirby song and makes it like a sad lament. Yeah, puts it into minor key and plays it with like a piano and an acoustic guitar, and it's beautiful. Like, I can't believe they took that song and made it so utterly different and so utterly good at the same time. It was pretty awesome. So yeah, if you can't tell, I really like this album.
I really like the J-pop version of Ashley's theme from WarioWare that they did.
Yeah, it's really good.
I am not there yet. That sounds amazing.
Okay. Well, you got stuff to look forward to.
Indeed, yeah. I am, let's see here, I am 66 tracks in out of 101, so I'm a little over halfway there.
You're only a little over halfway there with 66 tracks. You're going strong.
But yes, that Kirby song I was referring to is The Last Cake, which is also a really good song name for that. So yeah, Harmony of Heroes, definitely check that out. You've got nothing to lose except like a marginal amount of hard drive space, so it's all good. It's all good. Other than that, I started listening to some of the Metal Gear Solid 2 soundtrack in prep for this episode. We'll obviously talk about that more later, but it's been interesting listening to the Metal Gear music outside of playing Metal Gear, because it's not always something you give a lot of thought outside of like the theme song. So that's been kind of an interesting experience. But Steven, what have you been listening to?
Sonic music, does it shock you?
Yes, I'm shocked.
Well, I've been listening to Sonic Battle. That's a real interesting soundtrack. One of the lesser-known Sonic games that came out on the GBA, and it's basically an isometric fighting game with all of the Sonic characters. And musically, the style it goes for is extremely heavy with the electric guitars and organs, but it's all, ground through the lovable Game Boy Advance. sound chip.
Yeah, they did the perfect thing for Game Boy Advance because my favorite sound from the Game Boy Advance is when it tries to do an electric guitar and an organ.
Yeah, so everything just has this
so
kind
good.
of shrill, it's really tough to explain. I guess I'll just play some music while I'm talking right now. But I really like that soundtrack a lot because I think it has a really strong identity and sticks to it through the whole game. And B, and this is a follow-up to our last episode, which was the case study on Sonic Adventure 2, it carries on with those character themes. So, for example, Shadow the Hedgehog got his own game, but like Rouge the Bat ended pretty much music-wise in Sonic Adventure 2. But this is the only other game that continues that style. So you have like little vocal samples and
I forgot about that.
I remember the samples.
It's a really cool little soundtrack. Very high paced and high energy and fun to listen to. And I love the quality that you get from the GBA, but boy, would I like to hear a band cover this.
Well, you hear one remix in Sonic Generations. There's a remix
and
of one of the
it's
songs.
pretty good, but it doesn't have like the quality of the live instrumentation that Sonic Adventure 2 had.
No, it went in a different direction with it, that's for sure. But it was cool to hear.
But you can like hear the organs and you can hear the guitars and you can hear the drums and you just want to let them come alive. But, they're happy living there on the GBA. I like the GBA a lot.
Sonic Battle was a really weird game.
It was pretty weird.
Soundtrack.
It was, and you could like
Emerald the Robot,
but there was a whole story about Emerald sacrificing himself or taking over the world, one of the two.
I think he sacrificed himself to stop another Emerald from taking over the world.
Okay, that makes sense.
I rented it from Blockbuster, so I didn't experience the full story.
Oh, man, you're missing out on a very emotional ending then.
Yeah. Other soundtrack I've been listening to is Dragon Quest VIII.
That's what DQ8 stands for.
Yep, not Dairy Queen 8. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
The follow-up to Sneak King.
It's the only Dragon Quest game that I'm very familiar with at all. Yes. And I love the music so
You
much.
loved the original Dragon Quest. You kept telling us to keep playing
you're right! Dragon Quest 1. I did like that game, but you said it was boring, so you made us stop playing.
Yep.
I thought it was fun, though.
Yep, you did.
I think I've told the story before on Train Station, but
probably
when we first played Dragon Quest VIII, I was floored by the music. I had no idea that the US release got a fully orchestrated version of the soundtrack, which was not the case in other regions. And it's so sophisticated and classical and good. I was just driving around and I didn't really want to go back home, even though I had nothing else to do. I just wanted to keep listening.
You just wanted to wander around a field and
one of those
Dragon Ball characters in the face.
What? Oh, artist reference.
Yes.
Dragon Ball artist. Okay, I'm with you. But that's mostly
that would have been really random otherwise.
Yeah. It's mostly been it for me.
Cool. Wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute. I'm looking at your list, and that has not been it.
Oh, I missed Dark Cloud 2. Well, I won't.
This is why we have show notes.
Yeah, I won't slow down the podcast too much, but something interesting I learned about Dark Cloud 2.
What is that?
First of all, I remembered something about it. Okay. That soundtrack is heavily inspired by France.
Really?
At least that's my take on it, because there was
that weird town song that was like super accordion or something.
And it's that whole town. A lot of it has that very European, I think it's French.
Kind of carnival feel to a lot of it.
It does.
Because there's a carnival going on.
It's such a different take than you would expect. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I realized is those loops are super short.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the combat music is 55 seconds. And it loops forever. And then the town music is 45 seconds.
Oh, that's a little weird.
It's really hard to find a track that's over a minute unless it's a cutscene.
That's crazy. What about that fishing song? Pretty short as well?
Very short as well. These are lovely, lovely, wonderful, nostalgic songs that everyone should listen to, but they're very short.
Huh.
Which
reminds me more Dark Cloud remixes.
And that reminds me of the Extra Credits episode that came out recently about how games can be short and it's okay.
Yeah. I disagree. I need every game to be 60 hours.
I don't.
So I can play no games instead
I
of
want to
you.
talk to you actually after the show because this is totally off topic. We need to talk about Dragon Age 2 because that game's going on really long.
Dragon Age 2 is an incredibly long game, and everyone complained when it came out that it was too short. I am confused by people. Or I am slow at playing games.
Well, allow me to cease confusing you, give you the reins back to the podcast so we can move on to our main topic.
That sounds great. So our main topic is today's song, Yell Dead Cell by Norihiko. Yes. Hibino.
Yeah.
And
yeah, just think about it.
It is from Metal Gear Solid 2. Before we talk about the song, what's everyone's background with the Metal Gear Solid series?
Well, I'd heard a lot about the Metal Gear Solid series for a long time, but it was only last summer that I really played through the whole series and got to experience all of it. And I really loved the storytelling and the characters and like the way the environment set the mood, and there's just so many things I really liked about that series. I know it has its problems, but I think, are we going to talk about the game, the specific game, or are we just talking about the series right now?
Yeah, I was just curious about the series in general, but just how you got introduced to it. But yeah, let's go on to the game. What was your experience with Metal Gear Solid 2? What did it feel like? Like, you played through these in order? Did you go through them 1, 2, 3,
You know
4?
what? Before we focus on Metal Gear Solid 2, I think it's very, very important that we all rank our favorite to least favorite Metal Gear Solid games.
Just throw it out there?
Yeah.
All right, Jared, go ahead.
Okay, well, I would say that 2 is definitely my favorite, which is part of why I brought the song.
Okay.
Then I would say 3, Snake Eater is a classic. Maybe 1 after that, the original. Then 4. Then Peace Walker, I was not a fan of too much. And who knows where 5 will be when it comes out this September.
Best game ever. Maybe. I don't know.
I doubt it. It doesn't look weird enough.
Yeah, I haven't actually finished 4 yet, and I have not played Ground Zeroes. So I'm not like super up to date with the Metal Gear stuff, but I have beaten 1 through 3 and played through like, I don't know, 2/3 of 4. But yeah, Steven, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my ranking out here and see if you agree with it, okay?
Okay, alright.
I like 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. So they just got worse.
I think that you're full of...
I would possibly inverse 3 and 4.
All right. Well, that's all I was going to do. Your list. I would go 1, 2, 4, 3. I hate 3.
I don't hate 3. I think our experience with 3 was rather rocky.
I think... well, this is a different podcast.
3 actually might have the best theme song of the series.
Great point.
No
And we'll be getting into that a lot.
And it gives you a time to listen to it extensively while you climb a ladder. Which
3 is really
awesome.
Interesting, but it just drove me bananas for whatever reason.
Yeah. Again, I think we had a rough time with 3.
Yeah, I suppose so. But I think we all agree that 2 is very near the top of the list, if not at the top of the list.
Absolutely. 2 is just so wonderfully weird that it's like, it kind of, to me, embraces what is most interesting about Metal Gear Solid. Like, and just runs with it. Which is constantly trying to completely throw out your expectations and surprise you around every turn. I mean, heck, that game tried to surprise you with what character you played as through the game. Everything about that game was trying to mess with the minds of its fans.
Oh, that's so true. And I think the other half or the other side of the coin maybe, is that, it follows the structure of the first game, which is a pretty good structure, but fixes all of the very, very broken control schemes, or some of them, that were present in the first game.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Now there are new weird broken things like pressure-sensitive buttons, which, for me at least, were very hard to get used to. But nevertheless, yeah, it felt way better to play than the original. Obviously looked way better since it was a generation later. And just the whole plot, like, it seemed so scattered throughout the whole game, and it just had the best moment of, oh, this is what is going on, that I think I run into in the series so far.
Yeah, this game was just an emotional roller coaster for me. I laughed, I cried, I got, like, sick at one point, I was surprised at every turn. It was just such an experience, and I think that's why it's my favorite.
Yeah, I think one still, I like one just because of how cohesive it was. I thought I loved how it introduced all the elements, and it was like, it made the most sense of all the games, which I guess I appreciated. Also, like, Liquid Snake is my favorite character in the series, so he got by far the most time in one. But yeah, 2 to me is in a lot of ways a close second because of all the things we talked about. It's interesting that we all actually came to Metal Gear Solid really recently. Steven, you and I just started playing them maybe like 3 years ago or something.
Yeah, and then we took a big break and then kind of rapidly went through 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was a pretty interesting experience for sure. These games are unique. But the music in them is also interesting because they changed a lot from game to game.
Yeah.
Especially the theme songs. 2 stands out for me partially because the theme song in 2 is probably my favorite theme song the series has had.
Ah, yes. Can't say goodbye to yesterday.
It's really fantastic. And then, I mean, Snake Eater's awesome too, but Steven?
Yeah.
What do you think your favorite of the series of Metal Gear, your favorite soundtrack was overall? Because I found it really hard to remember the soundtracks from game to game, like
Me
outside
too.
of the theme song.
I'm usually pretty good at paying attention to music that plays throughout a game, but Metal Gear Solid, I suppose it's kind of an accomplishment. The music just is part of the game. When I think about one of those areas, I just think about the general vibe, right? Like it's the same thing with the plot. I can't remember what happened in all the Metal Gear Solid games. I just remember how I felt when it happened.
How dare you, sir? Can you remember what the Philosopher's Legacy is?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I have no idea what
I don't
that
even
is.
think the philosophers know what the Philosopher's Legacy is.
And I find the music to be the same way. I can picture it. It's like, it's string hits and it's like super sneaky investigative music when I'm sneaking around. But I couldn't remember any specific tracks, which is why it was very helpful for me to go through 2 and kind of refresh myself on the soundtrack.
Well, I think the soundtrack is really important for the series because it marks the introduction of Harry Gregson Williams, and he's working together with Hibino. And it really has this East meets West vibe where you've got several sort of more melodic tracks, and you have the more Western action movie vibe too.
That's interesting. I actually did not know that Williams hadn't worked in the first game. That's cool. So this was his introduction. So basically the theme had been created by Hibino. Is he the one who worked in the first one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha. So, Jared, what made you decide to bring this game in particular, and what made you decide to bring Dead Cell as the song?
Well, like I said, 2 is my favorite in the series and one of my all-time favorite games, and I don't think it gets a ton of love because some people are still a little miffed about the character change and the plot being all over the place and stuff like that, so I wanted to... And I also wanted to, I guess, throw a dedication, if that's okay. I wanted to talk about this because my friend recently passed away a couple days ago. And he was a big fan of Metal Gear Solid, and it's been a tough time for me. And so thinking about the game and the experiences we had together has been helpful coping. So.
Wow.
That's really sad, and I'm certainly very sorry to hear that, but that's a pretty incredible reason to bring this song, and just another reminder of how important games can be to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I feel honored to be giving some tribute to his life, and alright, that is, as Steven said, an excellent reason to bring that track here today. So, without further ado, I think that's a pretty good time to go ahead and play our song of the day today. Yell Dead Cell from Metal Gear Solid 2, composed by Norihiko Hibino. All right, that was Yell Dead Cell by Norihiko Hibino, and it was from Metal Gear Solid 2. That was a really interesting song from a really interesting game. I don't understand it, and I don't understand the game, but it's pretty cool.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Bryan. And maybe we should give a little bit of background as to what the song is about and where it plays. And we can't go over the entire Metal Gear Solid history because that would actually take hours. But if you're familiar with the game, it's supposed to follow Solid Snake or some incarnation of him. And it's basically a spy thriller adventure with a bunch of strange Japanese anime stuff thrown into the mix, essentially. And 2 was a big, blindside for all the fans because Snake dropped out as the protagonist and brought in, Raiden. Is they pronounce it Raiden or Raiden?
Raiden.
Raiden. Okay. For some reason I thought I remembered Snake going Raiden, but that may just be my imagination.
Yep.
Well, the Mortal Kombat character is pronounced Raiden, so.
Oh, that must be what's confusing me.
Exactly.
And
Snake
complex.
must have been a character in Mortal Kombat at some point.
And so, you're going around as this punk kid, Raiden, and it's this huge complex floating on the water, essentially.
Fun fact about Raiden, his voice actor went on to later voice Silver the Hedgehog from Sonic series. Exactly. So he's not always the most loved voice actor, but
no, that's very true.
I appreciate his work.
But eventually he runs into the government, or I should say rogue government group, Dead Cell, who are dead set on making his life difficult. And we won't get into the spoileriest spoilers that you can get into in this game, because why ruin that?
I was about to make a joke spoiler, like Snake's an alien or something like that, but nothing would be weirder than what the actual spoiler is. So I don't think I can really tackle that.
So true. And so eventually he runs into this group, and this is the theme song of that group. They're all bosses, and they all have very individual, almost superhero-like personas.
Yes, well, let's run down a few of Dead Cell real quick. There's a Fat Man, who is a fat man who I think rides around on, roller skates, possibly roller blades, there you go, and hides bombs everywhere. So he's one. There's also Fortune, who has the magical ability to, repel bullets from herself. So she has amazing luck, as she likes to put it. There's Vamp, who is apparently a vampire. So they kind of took that idea of making these superheroes from the original Metal Gear Solid and just made them, 3 steps weirder.
Yeah. And that may explain why this song sounds like it does, just a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, this song's really interesting because it definitely has a lot of Metal Gear Solid soundtrack is a background to you sneaking around. So it's very slow paced. It's very deliberate. Except when you're spotted, it's going to be something you really just hear in the background. And this song seems to be taking advantage of the fact that this is when they can really ramp things up. They can make things weird. They can make things crazy because you're fighting a boss. The music can draw more attention to itself. And I think that's what this song takes advantage of, because this song wouldn't really work to be having play throughout the whole game.
Oh, definitely.
And yet it does continuously play, because I believe this is the song that plays for all of the Dead Cell members, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes recurring entrances.
One interesting thing I find about that is you would think that since they're such distinct people, they would want to, compose a song for each of their personalities. But instead they kind of put them into one group. Even though the fights play really differently and, really different emotions when fighting them, you're going to hear this every time. And it's just a really jarring sound. Go ahead, Bryan.
The last episode we did that got lost was on Jet Set Song with Naganuma as the composer. This actually reminds me a little bit of his style. Because we talked a little bit about what made up a Naganuma song, and largely it was keeping that kind of consistent bass between a song and then throwing on a bunch of different samples and ideas on top of that consistent bass, or that consistent bed of music. And this song does something similar. There's always that electronic, rhythm in the background. And all of this you never really get a strong melody, but different elements come in and out of that. And a lot of those elements are these really strange sounding samples.
Yeah, like Jet Set, the whole thing feels very erratic and crazy, but it also feels just very composed, which I think also works for the characters and theme it's trying to get at.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. Those characters seem crazy, but they definitely know what they're doing.
Yeah, especially some stuff you find out later. They have their eccentricities, but they also have their own plans and their own goals. And they know way more about the situation than you do. So as much as you may want to, say, "Oh, you're just a fellow on roller skates. I can take you down." It's not that simple.
Exactly. So, Stephen, what stands out to you most about this track?
Well, what stands out to me most is what is either a saxophone or some kind of wild cry of a South American jungle beast. That is the defining Dead Cell sound. Like when Jared, when you said, "How about we do Yell Dead Cell?" I'm like, "Oh, you mean the crazy saxophone song?" That's how I know it. And one interesting little fact about that is, what's his name? Hibino. He is a saxophonist, if that's a word.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of his thing. And I believe he was the guy who did the saxophone in the Metal Gear Solid 3 theme. So that's kind of his trademark, you could say. He also later on, made like a remix album of pop songs, called Gentle Love that has a lot of like really chill saxophone parts in it.
This isn't the saxophonist that worked with, Jason Napolitano in putting out the album album Prescription for Sleep. Was that a different guy?
I think it is the same guy.
Let me check. That would be awesome. I love that album.
Didn't he say it was the saxophonist from MGS3?
Well, Gentle Love put this out, so...
Yeah, it's that guy.
That's awesome. I totally missed that connection.
Yeah.
So people, check out that album, Prescription for Sleep, Game Music Lullabies. Basically takes a bunch of different game songs and makes them into calming lullabies with a saxophone and piano. And I listen to it quite often. Really good.
Yeah.
Didn't know that was this guy. Good little side note there. Very different from this song, though I'd love to hear a lullaby version of Yell Dead Cell. Whisper Dead Cell. But yeah, Jared, what do you like most about this track? What makes it stand out to you?
I think for a lot of reasons we said, and I'm afraid of getting too spoilery, but I love it because of how thematic it is and how it hits on so many points about the story and what's going on, and it really ties into the narrative in terms of, I guess, like, especially with, like, the crying of the saxophone, like, sort of touching on that whole idea of what's real and what's fake, and how it sounds like it's almost a creature or a person, but no, it's really just an instrument. And it really has you questioning, just like in the game, you're always questioning what's happening.
And the whole rhythm of the song, like, feels like there are furtive glances from behind your back, like you're being watched and being attacked from all angles, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and all the boss fights very much feel like that too. You're very limited in your movement in Metal Gear, so you're always just trying to track these people, either finding their bombs or finding out where Vamp is jumping to next. And there's this, you always feel frantic when you're fighting them. You always feel off your game.
It's like, it's as if Yell Dead Cell is a heart attack in motion or something.
It is just one long seizure.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, the whole game feels like one long seizure.
Yeah, that's true. That's true enough.
Yeah, pretty much. Stephen, do you think there's anything that Any flaws you think in the song? Anything you don't like much about it? Anything that falls flat for you?
Well, I'll say I've never been much of a fan of it, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
Until I listened to it like 10 times today, I don't think I much appreciated it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot more now because I see that all of the randomness has a point.
Right.
But the techno track in the background is a bit generic for my tastes.
It reminds me a lot of Sonic Riders.
I was gonna say that!
Yeah.
And combined with the saxophone, it sounds like this should be right at home in a Sega game.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
And interestingly enough, he worked on Bayonetta in the future, so he made his way to Sega after all.
There you go.
Yeah.
Where he needs to be. But yeah, I agree. I never you can remember it because it's so weird, but it never super stood out to me as an awesome song before I went back and listened to it for this episode, where I started to get a lot more about what made this song tick and what made it good.
And also the samples are a little rough, I suppose, especially like the horns that aren't the saxophone.
Yeah,
But
this whole soundtrack suffers a lot from that.
Yeah, Metal Gear kind of had a rough start in that area. But I do really appreciate how the kind of constantly running techno background kind of feeds into, like we said, the theme of the game and what's real and what's technological. Combine that with the very quick and precise string hits that just sound like Metal Gear to me.
Oh yeah, those are really good.
And then the completely off-the-chain saxophone, which just kind of unnerves you, as do all of the bosses. I think it's very well done when you look at it as a full package and, all implemented into the game.
That's something I appreciate a lot about Metal Gear Solid 2 soundtrack in general, is they just brought so many electronic elements into it. Even like the opening theme uses a Metal Gear Solid theme, but then adds these drum and bass kind of techno elements to it, which again does that really good job of bringing in the organic and the artificial and making you kind of question how they're intertwined, which is at the core of this game, really.
Absolutely.
So do you guys have like a favorite Dead Cell member? Or a least favorite Dead Cell member?
Oh, good question.
All right. Yeah, let's just run down. There's Fortune, there's Fat Man, there's Vamp.
I mean, those are pretty much the 3 living bosses that you get to fight in the game.
I thought there was one more.
No, that's the 3 of them. Well, I guess maybe you could count Solidus? I don't know.
Yeah, Solidus is one of them.
He's sort of like the leader.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was the guy in the helicopter, right?
Yes.
Plane, I think? Helicopter, yes. But he was, the guy in the big mech suit. Yeah. And yeah, sword fought you.
Oh, yes, of course.
I could have covered that.
See, I never
song.
remember.
That's a great theme.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so my favorite? Oh, I'm tempted to say Vamp because of his role in 4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. That's another thing we disagree with. I thought that was dumb.
It was so dumb, but it's you have to go into it and embrace the dumbness.
I had a hard time embracing it, but anyway, that's okay.
I appreciated it so much.
Honestly, my favorite is Fortune. I think she's a really cool character, and I think her whole gimmick was interesting, and the plot twist behind it was also interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It was really interesting, all the things that Fortune didn't know. Like, Fortune felt cursed by her own powers, and it was kind of interesting figuring out where those came from and how she reacted to that.
And she had a wicked saxophone solo for a theme song. Are you finding a pattern here?
What about you, Jared? Favorite Dead Cell?
I'm really conflicted because I don't like Batman very much because he's too weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Vamp, I really like him because I hate him. Every time he's on the screen, I want to punch him in the face. But at the same time...
Or shoot him in the forehead.
Yeah. But Fortune, I think, has a lot more depth as a character, and I was always more invested in what was going on with her for a lot of the reasons you guys just brought up. So I think I would say that she's my favorite.
Yep. All right. Gotcha.
I completely
Fortune
echo
is probably the correct choice, honestly. She's really interesting. Vamp and Fat Man are just kind of like, okay, let's go with it. Why not?
Also, she has a really good stare. Fortune just kind of stares at you and says dramatic, sad things.
Or she can afford to, because you can't shoot her, so it's like she's got plenty of time.
Precisely.
So we mentioned before that this song seems like kind of has a dance beat behind it. What's interesting to me is this song was actually used in a DDR game, a remix of it. So
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, it's literally a dance song.
Wow.
In one of its presentations. So I thought that was kind of
fantastic. Was it like remixed or just
only mildly?
Right in there?
It's pretty close to the original. But
I mean, I guess I could imagine that, like, up, down, left, right, up, down.
Yeah, because you have that constant beat behind it, which
And it was also
really
in
what
Super
dance
Smash
needs.
Bros. Brawl, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that
I
was
think
where
you
I
were
first
correct.
heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Same with me, and I was like, where does this play in the game? I need to figure this out.
Yeah, you're right. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was really my introduction to Metal Gear. I'm like, what's Shadow Moses Island? And that really got me starting to wonder about the series. So, I mean, it did its job. It got me invested in the series, though. I still haven't actually, I've bought all pre-owned copies, so it actually hasn't helped them yet because they haven't caught up to the actual games coming out. But if I buy Metal Gear Solid 5, then it will have helped them in the long run.
That's true.
To get me into the series and get us talking about it here. So yeah, that was quite a bit of discussion on Yell Dead Cell. Any closing notes you guys have about this song?
Well, I would just like to close by saying that this is why I like doing the one song an episode format. Because it gets me to look closely at music I sometimes ordinarily wouldn't spend so much time, investigating and really learning who made it and why they made it. And just, I don't know, I learn a lot about music in general, and it's cool.
It is cool, Steven. I am totally with you there. Yeah. And what about you, Jared? Any last thoughts?
I had no idea that it was in DDR, which makes perfect sense because this theme is so... it pumps me up. When I'm trying to work, when I have work to get done, I'll put the song on, and it really, gets me excited, and I could dance.
It really is. It is super danceable. I need to buy DDR and find probably the obscure Japan-only version that has this song in it.
Oh, yeah.
I still think I have an Xbox DDR pad stuffed under a couch somewhere. That I could probably
it's somewhere
pull out.
lurking. 2 of them. They might be breeding.
It's one of those things you buy and then don't use, which is unfortunate. But hey, one day.
Unlike the Donkey Konga bongos.
Oh, the Donkey Konga bongos
weekend.
allowed us to play, name them totally blank.
Jungle Beat.
Jungle Beat, which is an amazing game made by the Mario Galaxy team. So people check that out. It is much better than you think it'll be.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and close out the show here. If you want to find us on Twitter, we are at TrainStation at 8. If you want to email us and talk about your own awesome stories with the DK Bongos, you can email us at trainstation8@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. We are TrainStation at 8 there as well. And on whalesareWhales.com, you can find us there because we are a production of the Whales Are Whales Productions Network. If you want to find me personally on Twitter, I am Lord Meldor. That is with 2 R's at the end. Steven is Steven Kelly 180. And Jared is Mr. Ettinger on,
that's MR. Yeah.
Say again?
Jettinger. Jettinger.
Oh, here it was written as just Mrettinger, so we had it incorrect here. Awesome.
That was probably a typo by me. Sorry.
How dare you, sir? How dare you make me say even more names incorrectly? We're all good. So, anything else you want to plug here at the end of the show, Jared? I know you have a podcast of your own you mentioned.
That's right. I want to plug my show, Pixel Pizza. It's broadcast live every Saturday night at 8 EST. Well, I don't know if it's going to be up the night that you guys post this because I'll actually be out at a convention that night. So, but every night after that, you can hear it. So, find it on Facebook.
Fantastic.
Just Pixel Pizza. And yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Indeed, I can confirm that from first-hand experience.
And we were allowed to talk about Sonic Adventure 2, so it was definitely a good time.
Automatically a boon for us. So yes, thank you everyone for joining us. And Steven, I'm going to throw it over to you for our awesome outro this week.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And
no, we just need a quick catchphrase.
In the meantime, watch out for wild jungle cats that may be impersonating Yell Dead Cell in your backyard.
You mean ocelots?